Meeting, or let the record reflect we have a quorum to conduct tonight's meeting. Gary, how we looking? We good? Okay. First item on the agenda is the minutes of the regular meeting of March 8th, 2018. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay, any comments or questions with the minutes? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Unanimous, thank you. Under unfinished business, we have none. Under new business, item A, the approval of Nicholas Hensel as Lawrence Police Reserve Officer. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions for Deputy Chief Woodruff?
No?
No? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Chief, would you like to swear him in, sir?
Yeah, Kathy and Nick, come on down. And what we thought we'd do, if you don't mind, is the person he's replacing on the SWAT team will present him his badge. That was Ron Marks, who is officially retiring from being a medic on the SWAT team, and Nick is taking his place. So he's going to do the badge presentation after the swearing in. So.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, it's my honor to swear you in. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I say your name.
I, Nicholas Hensel,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Indiana.
and the State of Indiana,
That I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and honestly
and honestly
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of a Lawrence Reserve Police Officer
of a Lawrence Reserve Police Officer
for the City of Lawrence
for the City of Lawrence
in a manner provided by law
in a manner provided by law
and according to my best knowledge
and according to my best knowledge
and judgment.
and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. I sent you the sign right here, and I'll get you guys copies of it. Welcome up.
Mr. Marks, thank you for your service on the SWAT team. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the contract with Doheny. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that pronounced right? Okay. Doheny Companies to purchase a vac door model 2112 HD-J6. I got that right.
Correct.
For DPW. David Lotz, if you want to expand on that a little bit.
We had an old one that we were using, and we took it up to be repaired. It was just too much money to repair it. They had a used one there, and that's when we looked at. And we needed clean storm sewers, maybe some digging. You can dig with it as well. Yeah.
Can you, in brief detail, explain to the audience and perhaps this board, you and I understand what that is because we're in the business, but can you explain what the purpose of that truck is and
Yes.
kind of its function, if you would?
We can clean storm sewers out with it. You can vacuum. Basically, it's a big vacuum. Think of a big wet vac, is what it is, with a hose on it. You can run it down and clean several 100 feet of pipe at a time. Get blockages out.
All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. Do I have a second?
A second.
Do either one of you have any questions for Mr. Lotz?
I do not.
So did this was on the list of things to do last month, or I got a notice about the sewer cleaning.
Correct.
You used the old? Or
This may be, I don't know if it's the sanitation side or there's two different, utilities has one too.
okay.
This is the first storm sewer.
Okay. Is this the one that was pulled off the agenda a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Actually, we didn't meet 2 weeks ago for lack of an agenda, and that was the 2 weeks prior to that, correct?
And that was to put together the memo that's required as a special purchase. Since there are significant savings, we're able to go under a different purchasing method under Indiana code. But we just needed the memo to put together for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions for Mr. Lotz?
Nope.
No. Anything from legal? No. Okay. I have a first and second. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is Resolution Number 4, 2018, the approving of the remediation of Station 38. Chief? How are you, sir?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. Do you have a minute to describe what it is we're remediating?
Actually, it's in the process. We had an air quality test done at Station 38, which is about 32 years old, and the findings were pretty dismal. So we had some areas on the middle floor in the living quarters for the battalions, and then downstairs where they work out. So as soon as we got that air quality report back, I immediately contacted some restoration companies to come in. It was not even really livable, so they immediately started to mitigate the mold issue that we had there.
Is that primarily what it was mold?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's from years of leaky pipes, and everything's been corrected and fixed, but the after effect. So we want to make sure these guys are at that station, guys and gals are at the station 24 hours a day. I mean, it's their home. So we immediately had to make it a safe environment for them to live in.
Okay. All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve item C.
I make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second?
Okay, do you guys have any questions for the chief?
No, you answered it just about it. Has the reason for the mold been corrected?
Yes, and once that, you do a pre-test, air quality test, and once it's mitigated, we're in the process now of having air quality tests done again to make sure what they did corrected the problem. And that was, I mean, we tore out a bunch of drywall. It's just, the station's 32 years old, and it's just over the years without really taking action to correct some of the stuff. But to answer your question, yes, ma'am, it's all been, as far as we know, anything that we were told, we have fixed.
Any health issues that were caused or any concerns of any future health?
That we don't know. We've had some firefighters that are pretty healthy, that when they wake up, wake up with headaches or some sinus stuff. So I'm not a doctor, I can't directly relate it, but something, I spent a lot of years at that station, and there's just something that wasn't right. I can't put my finger on it, but there was, that's the whole reason we brought the air quality control measure into the picture, so.
Anything from legal?
Just a note that ordinarily we would bring this to the board before beginning remediation, but because of the emergency, that's why we're bringing it after we've already started the work, just as a ratification really, and that's kind of explained the dates and everything in the resolution.
Okay, thank you. I have a first and second on item C. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda under unfinished business is item D, Resolution 5, 2018, approving the engagement with Kroger, Gardis, and Regus to intervene IPL rate case. Anyone here to speak on that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, go ahead.
On December 21st, 2017, IPL submitted to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission a rate case, basically asking to increase rates substantially. So we have talked with Kroger, Gardis, and Regus, and they're going to intervene pending this board's approval on our behalf, because we do have all the street lights and we do have large buildings and stuff. So this could have a significant impact on the city. We're essentially splitting the contract between the civil city side and the USB and the utility side. The USB approved their portion of it on Tuesday. So, you know, we'll intervene and see if we can't get a better deal for the city.
This time I'll entertain a motion to approve item D.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions for legal on this?
So is this this is affecting every municipality, I mean, it's not,
Yeah, all the customers. Yeah, IPL customers.
so are they gonna make sure that all the buildings are properly coded and proper usage, or are they just going to object to the rate increase and try to get a lower,
More towards the latter, not necessarily just objectives, so that we're represented at before the IURC, so the city's interests are represented. Last year, or maybe late 2016, Indianapolis and IPL cut a deal just themselves, and then later this case was brought to increase it. So other municipalities have not intervened that I'm aware of that I last checked, but University of Indianapolis had, Walmart had, some of the other kind of larger users of electricity had intervened, and this is just a way to make sure that our interests are represented and that we can explain what our positions are and hopefully get the best outcome possible for the city.
so if this does not work out in our favor, do we have an idea of what the impact in a plan to?
Well, if memory serves, IPL is asking for a 9 or 10% increase. So if I think that's probably whatever they're asking for would be the worst case scenario, I believe. I'm not fluent in IURC proceedings, but I do believe that what they're asking for would be the worst case scenario, and this is a way to kind of mitigate the effect on the city and on the utility. Kind of lower those rates. We have the LEDs in, kind of go through what they're asking for and say, we've already done this, we've already done that. And we have worked with IPL and David Lotz can confirm this on getting the street lights up to LEDs and that sort of thing.
I know we're actively in an LED retrofit program right now, are we not?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No? Okay. I have a first and second. All those in favor of item D, please indicate by raising your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Finally, under new business, we have an update for the pedestrian plan process by United Consulting Engineers. And I understand Mr. Anthony couldn't make it tonight. Mr. Lotz, I think you're present for the city to perhaps field some questions if necessary. I think United Consultants, you guys are probably most intimate with this project, so maybe we should field those to you as well.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and take it off.
Thank you very much. Let me wake up my computer here real quick. Well, thank you. I see some familiar faces in the audience tonight. It's nice to see everybody that came out back in February. My name is Devin Stetler. I work with United Consulting. I brought Aaron Toombs with us this evening. We've been working with David and Bill Anthony on the master plan, bicycle and pedestrian master plan here for the city of Lawrence. We're excited to announce that we've prepared a draft of the report, and we're releasing it for public view or review and comment. And before I guess I go into more details on that, I just wanted to kind of update everybody on the project itself and kind of where we're at and where we're going. I'd be remiss without first at least thanking some funding partners. Obviously, the City of Lawrence played a big role in funding this project. A lot of this project was funded through the Federal Highway Administration, through some federal planning dollars that are administered here in the Indianapolis area through Indianapolis's Metropolitan Planning Organization. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those agencies. In terms of our goals or our purpose of this project, what we really are trying to do is enhance overall regional connectivity and accessibility here in Lawrence, not only for Lawrence residents and their ability to use pedestrian facilities to get around to neighboring communities such as the Geist neighborhood or Noblesville, Fishers, or even the city of Lawrence, but maybe more importantly, what we're trying to do is develop a system which attracts those users to the city of Lawrence and what Lawrence has to offer in its downtown area. In addition to that, we're trying to improve the existing pedestrian and bicycle facilities here locally. We're trying to connect any gaps that we may have identified in their existing facilities. We're trying to keep our eyes open on the end users. We know that a lot of people use these facilities for recreational purposes, but we also know that there's a significant percentage of people that rely on those facilities and need them. And we think if we, reach for those goals and start obtaining those goals, that will go a long way just in general terms of promoting a healthier lifestyle here in the city. In terms of our project and our work emphasis, it's really been threefold. We had a planning process that was conducted primarily using a desktop review where we were able to identify existing infrastructure, pedestrian and bicycle facilities here in the city. And from that, we were able to identify or get a good feel for where improvements might be needed. We also went through a public involvement process. Many of you participated in a public survey that we had released in December of last year and January of this year, and participated in a public information meeting a couple of months ago. From that outreach effort, we were able to get a better feel for what we thought the public needed, and then maybe got a better feel for how the public would benefit by doing certain improvements around the city. And in addition to that, it gave us an opportunity through the survey, through comments from the survey, and through public input at our public information meeting. We were able to gauge public support or sentiment towards various spot improvements in the overall pedestrian network throughout the city. Afterwards, we started to work on the master plan. We've identified a series of improvements or recommended projects throughout the city. And for each one of those, we did put together some benefits and drawbacks to moving forward with each one of those projects. And every one of those identified improvements were really supported through our planning efforts, but then through the public involvement process, through the survey, through the public information meeting, and through that constant coordination with David and Bill Anthony and city staff. So what have we done? Well, I've already mentioned we did the desktop review, so we were able to identify what facilities were present here in the city and what deficiencies in those facilities we thought existed. After we did that, we did a field reconnaissance to make sure that what we were seeing in front of a computer actually was there in the field. And then we did the public involvement process, which I've documented as well. Since we last were before this group in February, we've continued to work and massage the results that we've seen from the survey and from the public information meeting. And from those comments that we saw, we were able to get a good idea of the support. There's really almost 100% support for this type of plan here in the city. And in addition to that, we were able to get an idea of what type of projects or where those projects should be developed throughout the city. And in addition to that, through our planning efforts and through that coordination with city staff and the public involvement, we were able to identify those improvements, but more importantly, we were able to focus or narrow what we feel are the three highest priority projects to maybe move forward to develop engineers' reports, which was a kind of a concept I introduced a couple of months ago, and I'll get more into that here in just a second. But we've also put together the draft master plan, which I've talked about. For each one of the projects that we've identified in the plan, we've developed a narrative which goes into more detail about those projects. And we used a set of constant themes or elements that we basically evaluated or looked at for each one of those projects, and I'll get into that as well here in just a second. In terms of the identified improvements, this is just a list that I put before you. It's not prioritized or ranked in any way. It's just a list of projects or spot improvements that we saw that came about as part of the planning efforts and the survey efforts that we've gone through. These same projects are seen actually on this map. The map probably looks very familiar. It's a map that was disseminated as well, for the most part, through the public survey several months back. Already mentioned that we discussed some elements, some consistent elements or themes for every one of the projects. What we tried to look at for every or what we did look at for every project was its location. We tried to identify or determine a project justification. Connectivity, again, connectivity was vital for every one of the projects. In terms of connectivity, we're looking at not only connecting neighborhoods, but connecting communities, trying to get people here in Lawrence to adjacent neighborhoods, adjacent communities, and vice versa. We started looking at any safety issues that might present themselves. We looked at existing land uses surrounding all of the proposed improvements. Using GIS, we did preliminary design constraints, or we tried to identify preliminary design constraints for each one of these proposed projects to get a better feel for what, if the projects proceed to design, what type of factors might play a role in that design, such as if there's railroad crossings or utilities or maybe limited setbacks in certain instances. We tried to identify some issues that the designers might encounter. We went through a similar exercise to identify environmental impacts. So we pointed out if there's stream crossings, wetlands, historic sites, brownfield sites, anything from an environmental standpoint that we thought from a desktop review might impact the development of a project. And last but not least, we incorporated the public comments and opinions that we've heard and seen through the public survey and through the public information meeting. We summarized all of those responses and incorporated those views and thoughts into every segment that we've identified in the project. I mentioned a little earlier that we've identified 3 projects that we thought really made a lot of sense to take that next step. It doesn't mean that they're going to be developed, but it means that it makes a lot of sense to take a look at these projects and see if we can define a scope to see if we can make a project happen. And these projects were really developed as a result of what we saw through our planning process, what we heard through the public survey and public information meeting, and then that constant dialogue with city staff. But really the 3 projects that we thought made a lot of sense were looking at adding pedestrian facilities along Lee Road between 59th Street to at least 63rd, and then maybe expanding that all the way to 71st Street. We looked at putting in additional pedestrian facilities along 63rd Street from Lee Road to Oak Landon Road. And then likewise, we looked at adding facilities along Oak Landon Road from 63rd up to Fox Road. And for these corridors, we're going to do engineers' reports. And what these engineers' reports are going to tell us is they're going to provide us with a scope. That's going to define a scope so that the city knows exactly what that project is going to be, what it's going to look like. We're going to identify if it's a sidewalk facility or if it's a multi-use path or if it's a bike lane, dedicated bike lane. We'll identify not only the scope, but we'll identify what the budget for those projects will be and what a potential schedule for development of those projects would be. Obviously, available funding will be a major factor in the development of these projects and for construction. And we're looking at assuming the city's funding kind of aligns with project development, with the development of the engineers' reports, and then through design, et cetera, that maybe we could be in a position to start constructing a project in the spring of 2019. Having said that, I will note that there have been no final decisions on these projects. They're it's very, very early on in the design of those projects or the thought of those projects to before we get to that point. With that, I just wanted to leave you by saying that we have put forth or put out there a draft of the report. We've made it available on the city's website. If you go to the city's website on their homepage, we've posted the document, or the document will be posted. Our intent is to have it posted for a month. It'll be active, the link will be active beginning Monday, April the 16th, and we'll accept comments through May 18th. And we value and appreciate your time in looking at the document. So any comments that we receive, rest assured that we'll address those comments, and those comments then will become a part of the document itself. Any comments that you might have on the document, we would like for you to use the listed email address to send those comments to us. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen, or you're welcome to contact Bill Anthony with the city. We have brought copies of this slide, so you don't all have to write down this contact information. You're welcome to get a copy of the slide from us, and we'll make sure that you have that information. So, with that, that's all I had for you tonight. We're excited about the end product. You know, we think it's a good product, and we're anxious to get it out there, and we're anxious to hear your feedback. So, thank you very much. I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
Federal funding, is it guaranteed?
No.
Okay, so as they work out their budgets.
Yeah, and actually it was our intent as we looked at those three projects that we're talking about that they would utilize local money.
Right. Okay.
So no federal monies would be involved. At least the way that we're looking at developing the projects currently, no federal money would be involved in the project.
And where would the money come from?
The city's funds.
Interesting, okay.
So that doesn't mean that couldn't change in the future, but just the way we're looking at the projects right now, it's local money.
Okay, thank you.
If I could ask a quick question. So if people go to the city website, I assume there's a link to this comment, public comment at cityoflawrence.org, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
So,
And if people have issues working the links, let us know, and we'll make sure that gets rectified.
Okay. Thank you. Anything from the board? Any questions for?
yeah,
Huh?
I'm reading.
Can you speak up?
80-20.
Speak up to the mic so they can hear.
Reading an 80-20 split of the funding of these projects, federal.
Well, I'm sorry this project, the study itself,
That's what.
that was 80-20. It's not the development of the projects that are listed in the report.
So, is there money available for the projects? The actual project?
There is an avenue if the city were to decide to pursue federal funds for those projects, that they could pursue federal money to develop those projects through Indianapolis's Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Okay.
Well, there's also federal money in Safe Routes to Schools.
Yes.
Most of these are close to school,
Exactly.
within a half-mile radius, and that's
we're
that's
using
one
that.
motivator.
We're using some of that now.
We are, but those are for different projects and different school
Right,
organizations.
sidewalks.
Amy Beverland's one of them, but yeah.
So is there, because I think everybody would maybe misunderstood that piece as far as how it was being paid for and all of that. So
Well,
if we were to go after the federal dollars, do you know is there a time limit, or is there a sense of urgency to get these done?
Well, I think, and I don't want to speak for Bill or for Dave,
No, and I understand.
but I think it was the intent to use local money, if local money was available, because the federal process can be kind of time-consuming to get through. You're going to add, in a lot of cases, you're going to add years to the development of a project because you have to adhere to federal environmental and design standards that you don't necessarily have to adhere to if you can develop the project locally.
So, one more question. Do you know what Fishers and other areas have done with all the paths that they put in? Was that used, was that?
You'll see other communities develop trails like the Monon Trail or other trails using federal money, like you would see administered through the Indianapolis MPO, but communities use their own money to do those facilities as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from anyone in the audience who'd wish to speak? Could you please step up and state your name for the record, please?
Dave Hughes, and my question was, would you do one or all three of those at the same time?
Well, I think cost is going to play a large role in that, so I think you would actually see those projects being developed one at a time. And you might see the size of those projects might dictate that a couple of those might be segmented and developed in phases themselves, such as 63rd Street. That's a fairly long corridor, and the same with Oak Landon. Those might necessitate that they're split into phases. It really just depends on what the budget would be, what the city has allocated for those type of projects in any given fiscal year. But it's my understanding, and again, I don't want to speak for Dave or for Bill, but the city is committed to making sure that they keep up with pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. So I think they're committed to spending some money. Exactly what that amount is, I can't speak to that.
Okay. Ma'am, the first lady that spoke, what was your name for the record? I apologize. Yes, please.
Ellen, E-L-L-E-N, M-C-C-A-I-N.
Okay, thank you.
MC.
MCCAIN.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Lawrence, I'm trying to find out where exactly is this master plan going? I mean, what street to what street?
We looked at the entire city limits.
Okay.
Was our study area.
Can you tell me if that's anywhere by 46 and Shaver? I live around there. I know I see the map. I'm trying to visualize.
Is there a chance you could flip back to that map and maybe direct where he's looking?
I can't even see that map.
You can step forward if you'd like, if it will help you.
Okay, I don't know. No, I don't even know where 46th Street is. On there.
Right here, right in here. It's 46th.
Okay, but is that going over the interstate? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading that.
Interstate's over here. So that's 46th right there. There's, right in this area in the blue.
Okay.
Correct. There.
If you
South
could,
side of Pendleton Pike.
if you could show me, I don't know if Lawrence Park is even there.
Lawrence Park is,
Lawrence Park. You know what I'm trying to use it.
that's poster, here's Lawrence Park.
Yeah.
Off of,
Does that look like that's even going to be connected around Lawrence Park and Franklin?
I'm not sure I follow your question
Okay,
or
I'm just-
concern.
I'm trying to figure out where everything's going. Okay.
You said, do you have another copy of this that we can give him following the
Certainly.
meeting and maybe
Yeah.
navigate that with him?
Okay.
Yeah,
I just want.
I'll get your contact information. I can send you a cleaner
Okay,
version of
looks
that.
like it's going around the yellow part. Is that?
Well, the yellow is just the city boundaries. The items that we've identified as specific improvements are the colored lines that you see
Okay.
in the
So
map.
that's where the bike,
Yes.
okay. Would it be, sorry if I'm asking another question. Would it be a consistent trail where we would be guided, like where to go if we got on?
Yeah, okay, I think,
Sorry about
no. These, we've identified basically a series of spot improvements through the city, which we think overall will help improve the existing pedestrian and bicycle network
Right.
here in the city. The three major projects that we've identified that we think will go a long way to basically increasing accessibility for a lot of residents in the city is the Lee Road, 63rd Street, and Oak Landon Road, which is the green line The longer blue line and the orange, the orange line. Those are the three projects, or the three improvements that we're actually taking the next step to identify a scope.
Okay, so that long trail right there, that Lee Road, East 63rd and Oak,
Yeah.
that's going to be the large.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll speak to this because I used to serve in that district. We've identified this about 10 years ago as being an opportunity to connect the far northeast side of the city to
Okay.
get all the way down to the fort.
Okay.
And they can get to the riding path. And as he's identified, there are a lot of gaps within the infrastructure of the sidewalks and walk paths that they have identified. And it's really going to go a long way to help bridge the gaps in the different gap areas so we get total connectivity from one side of the city to the other.
Yes.
So that's, okay, now I understand.
Okay.
Okay, right there, that, right in the middle is what you're talking about, everybody, and that's the master plan right there.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we were trying, and maybe I didn't make myself clear, but in terms of accessibility, we understand or recognize the importance of the fort. So we were trying to identify improvements and corridors that would get residents to the fort and get those that may reside outside of Lawrence, such as Geist or Noblesville, Fishers, or even Indianapolis, to the fort.
Realistically, in this upper district, and I can speak to this because I've walked about every one of these houses, Kathy's been with me, there are about 4,600 people up in the northeast side of the city that have no access or no connectivity to the fort. Just the concentration of houses up in this area versus some of these, we think we're getting the biggest bang for the buck.
Okay.
So we're gonna give a lot of people right in this area. And you just look at the roads, you can just see the mass of people that could actually concentrate towards the fort.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
And these bike paths would look like the ones on Fall Creek that you can see going towards,
They could potentially look like that. I mean, we're in that process for those three corridors of identifying what that scope, what those facilities might be. I will say that we're starting large, like a 10-foot or so wide path. Now, the way we finish up, the way the scope ends up, to a large degree is going to be dependent upon budget and funding. So we may have to narrow those projects a bit, but we are, at least initially, we're looking at wider facilities.
okay, great.
Do you have time for a few more questions if anyone has them? Does anyone else have any more questions? No? Anyone from the board? Okay. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentation. And again, you said you have screenshots of the website and the information for contact if anyone wants them?
That is
Okay.
correct.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is the comments of the administration. Mr. Lotz or perhaps Mr. Johnson, I don't know if you have anything from the administration? No? Okay. Last item on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is, for those of you who do not attend this meeting routinely, there really is no format to this. If there's something you'd like to say to this board or possibly, for lack of a better term, air out on Facebook, we're being recorded right now, so help yourself. But this is an opportunity. I extend 3 minutes to anyone who is a citizen of the city of Lawrence to step up and speak and make any comments of recognition, any improvements, compliment Dave Lotz on the pothole repairs, and whatever you want to do. So, but this is your opportunity. So if anyone would wish to speak, please raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you and you're welcome to come up. Not everybody at once. Okay, thanks, guys. No further business coming before this board. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned.